It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Thank you for being here, as always.
Thank you.
Well, I got one thing. Let's start this off with this. Why not start out? I mean, the weekend, tons of sports stuff, right?
Yeah.
Going on.
Yeah.
But here's one thing that I just happened to see. Just going through the TV the other day, and it was after Penn State lost. And I saw now ex-coach James Franklin saying, I accept full responsibility. Well, they fired him a couple hours later and then found out that he will be collecting over the next few years $48 million. My question would be, how come all the people that seem to accept full responsibility only do so when they sign a contract that guarantees them that they will never have to accept full responsibility?
He's got 48 million full responsibilities. I would say this. Managing that kind of wealth is a full responsibility.
See, I know people get angry. They get really angry about their sports. I mean, they get furious about it. And I think that if a coach is going to accept full responsibility, they should give up any future earnings, and every asset that they've acquired should be auctioned off to the fans.
They should repossess everything.
They should repossess everything from any coach that's fired and take
even
away
the ball caps with the team logo on them.
Right. I mean,
give us that back.
Because I guess you're not getting fired for cause, but you're getting fired because you're not performing your job.
Yeah, right. You suck as a coach.
I also, once in a while you see that from politicians. So I accept full responsibility, and it's like, no, you don't. But you hear that term more often from coaches who have guaranteed contracts, who get into a losing streak. They all take full responsibility. And then when they get fired, they don't have any consequences to accepting full responsibility.
Right.
Except getting fired, which means there are consequences. They get to do nothing and make millions for years. I like those consequences.
Yeah.
I'm willing to take full responsibility for those consequences.
Oh, we have to renegotiate our contract to kind of, make that work. Because at this point, nah. I'm going to blame somebody else.
Oh, my gosh.
I'm going to blame a lot of somebody else.
And then the other thing I notice in sports, too. For example, a team will be playing and the defense will suck.
Yeah.
All right?
Right.
And then the quarterback, who will be a pretty good quarterback, gets up and takes full responsibility for the team not winning.
Yeah.
And then everybody in the media says, that's really great because he took the hit. Well, except everybody knows he wasn't at fault. They all know the defense stunk. So now we view it as a good thing to basically lie to the fans who all know that it was the defense that sucked, and that's why you lost.
Yeah, right.
All right, that's it. I can go home now. No. My football team did not play yet. This is not rage because the Bills lost or won.
Yeah. And it's not rage against the Cowboys because they lost either, because really nobody cares.
I did see on X there was a picture, and it was at the Kansas City-Detroit game.
Yeah.
And they played in Kansas City. So you see all these Kansas, in the middle of it, there's a guy, it looks like a black shirt. It says, Cowboys suck.
I didn't see any coverage. I just saw the headlines come through on my notifications. Did Jerry Jones flip anybody off after the game?
I thought that was a thumbs up.
I said I meant to do a thumbs up. No, you didn't. No, you didn't.
I can still remember. I didn't watch a lot of it, but I do, and I don't know if I saw it on YouTube or actually saw it when it was in its run. But the 2.5 Men, where the little kid,
Yeah,
was wondering about, the different insulting things you can do with your fingers, the signs you can give.
Oh yeah.
It's like, but this one, this is the one that causes like rage and anger.
Yeah.
And then he looks totally confused and he says, "Well, who decides?"
Right. Right. Well, it's like those nude protesters.
Oh, in
over
Portland.
the weekend in Portland, protesting ICE, and they were holding up the middle finger to ICE. At least, I think it was a finger. But it's we don't need that. Now, I do see their point. Do what we want, or we will never put our clothes back on. And quite frankly, they might have.
Well,
some
that's
leverage there.
I'm telling you,
they might have some leverage.
If the left wants a convincing argument, I think people on the left taking their clothes off is a real threat.
Yeah,
to civil society.
Well, because it wasn't one of those moments like, ooh, nude people. It was, ew, nude people. And you don't need to show that.
And many
just you guys that I follow on social media, just write that it happened. I know what it looks like. I don't need that kind of stress in my life.
And remember the Seinfeld episode, because they were riding bikes.
Yeah.
Remember the Seinfeld. There's good naked and there's bad naked.
Oh, yeah. No, yeah.
And when you're stretching your muscles in any type of way.
Yeah.
Because remember the one woman that she was trying to open the pickle jar?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's it's something I hadn't thought of. The left could win everything if they just threaten to take off their clothes.
Right.
We're going to go through your neighborhood. Forget about destroying your property. Forget about vandalism. Forget about pillaging. We're just going to go through your neighborhood on our bicycle with no clothes on.
Right.
Whatever you want.
Right.
We give up.
Right. All right, Gary, breaking news here. We do know, and it's being widely reported now, we were expecting for the hostages to be released. The prisoner exchange between Israel and Hamas is officially underway. This from Fox News. The Red Cross convoys seen moving through Gaza early Monday as part of the operation to transfer hostages and prisoners. The exchange began around 8 a.m. local time and is expected to continue throughout the morning. So this is happening.
That's good news. And
that is some of the best news that you can get is this, because I think a lot of us, when it was announced last week, I think a lot of us, as much as we were celebrating with those families, the ones, if you probably saw the video where President Trump called the Israeli hostage families and told them we were both celebrating with them in that moment, but we were also in the back of our minds, just being hopeful as you can get, that this was actually going to happen and that Hamas was not pulling a fast one. And again, so far, I've seen reports by a number of individuals on social media that I follow that several of the Israeli hostages have been released so far. And we will, follow this, of course.
Well, I just saw that the report out there that the names of the living hostages have been released. I do not have them here.
I don't have that here.
The Red Cross convoy seen in Gaza ahead of the hostage prisoner exchange. Mm-hmm. Red Cross buses and vehicles spotted on the move in Gaza's southern city of Khan Younis early Monday as preparation begins. Then that goes back, that's 29 minutes ago. And then just a few seconds ago from Fox News, the prisoner exchange between Israel and Hamas is officially underway.
Yeah.
The International Committee of the Red Cross is coordinating the handover, transporting several Israeli hostages from Gaza to Israel custody, while Palestinian prisoners are set to be released in return. The Israeli Defense Forces and Israeli Air Force are on site to assist with the transfers and expect additional hostages to be handed over later today. The Prime Minister said each hostage will receive a care kit prepared by Israel's Hostage Affairs Directorate, which includes clothing, personal items, a laptop, phone, and tablet. Plus, they will get a personal note from the Prime Minister. The Red Cross convoys are expected to continue moving between Gaza and Israel throughout the day as the exchange progresses. So that's what we have here in this moment. Trump, the president, heading over to the Middle East, where he'll address Israel's parliament,
right,
and attend a regional peace ceremony in Egypt with global leaders. You know, it was interesting because there was a lot on X over the weekend. The Wall Street Journal story saying that some of the Hamas police are back. Well, that's something that you're going to have to weed out.
Yeah.
Look, I think that Hamas will attempt to do anything to infiltrate, whatever that government is. That's where, again, you're going to have the Arab countries and Trump and Tony Blair. Tony Blair, where they're going to have to, because that's all part of it, because we all know what Hamas is going to attempt to do here.
Yeah.
They attempt to infiltrate every part of that government that they can possibly do, and that will be the tough job to weed them out and ensure that that's not going to happen, at this point. But this is part one of it.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Who on the left?
Beginning.
Somebody on the left criticized Obama for not mentioning Trump at all in his statement.
Well, and then Hillary. She commends Trump. I mean, again, I have to ask the question, is she feeling okay? Here's the problem.
She doesn't want Trump to go after her.
But right. Listen, exactly. That's a great point.
Say nice things about him.
Do as much as you can.
Hillary,
just get on his good
Hillary,
side.
look, I know it's going to kill you, but you got to say some nice things about the guy.
Hey, Hillary, I got you this red hat. Hear me out. Hear me out. No, but I think they're in a situation where, what do? The more you try and because they've been screaming peace in the Middle East, Trump actually puts a plan in place. We won't say he's got it done just yet because, you'll only be able to tell with time. But this is a very comprehensive plan, in my opinion, because you look at how many other nations are involved here and what interest they have. By the way, a very interesting story from the Washington Post about Qatar and what they were doing actually behind the scenes versus what they were saying in public and, the wagging of the finger thing. And you and I suspected that. I actually talked about that, said, look, these countries, these other nations don't want this terrorism to go on forever and ever. Because I think one of the things, and it hit me over the weekend, one of the things that they risk is that if let's say an ISIS or Hamas or another group just decides they want to form a caliphate, that they're done being the hitmen or whatever for Iran, and now they want their own and they want their own power, well, then they're going to be a threat to other Arab nations if that's their goal. So the idea would be you keep their power very, very limited and don't let them. Now, we're not going to change Iran, but the other nations don't want this kind of activity around the world because eventually it means that they themselves are going to suffer.
And even if you're not a democracy over there, do you want to continue dealing with Iran or Hamas? Or might you say, and we had talked about this when the royal family in Saudi Arabia, what was it, 12, 13 years ago, said,
Yeah.
we've got to diversify. We're not going to have the monopoly on oil. And if we diversify, it's mean we have to be accepting more of Western values. I wonder how much the United States and the Trump administration pushing, look, we've got oil. You've got to diversify. Why are you friends with them? Why not be friends with us? Mm-hmm. Even if they're not a full democracy, why not ally yourself with the United States?
Right.
Those are the things that come to mind. 866-90 Red Eye.
Hi, I'm Jen Loomis, a transport safety expert at J.J. Keller. In order to manage speed, you need to understand the 4 factors involved in stopping a vehicle. Perception distance is the distance a vehicle travels from the time you see a hazard until your brain recognizes it. The perception time for an alert driver is approximately 3/4 of a second. Reaction distance is the distance a vehicle travels from the time your brain tells your foot to move from the accelerator until your foot hits the brake pedal. The average driver has a reaction time of 3/4 of a second. Brake lag distance also needs to be taken into account. When operating a vehicle with air brakes, it takes about half a second for the mechanical operation to take place. Finally, braking distance is the distance it takes a vehicle to stop once the brakes are applied. Braking distance is affected by the weight, length, and speed of the vehicle, as well as road condition. This tip was brought to you by J.J. Keller and Associates. Visit us at jjkeller.com.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
We are Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Oh, I know who it was. It was Abby Phillip. I'll find it coming up on CNN. I think she said, I'm paraphrasing here. It just popped back into my mind. She had said over the weekend that it's not unfair to ask the question that if Obama talked about the peace deal, that he should mention Trump's name.
Right. Well, look,
But
I mean,
it's not-
Trump gets the brunt of the credit here. Others had to cooperate in bringing them together, but he was the key in bringing all of this together.
Well, of course he was.
And ignoring that part of it, you're just going out of your way to be arrogant. Again, it's the movie The Village. Those of which are those of whom we do not speak. It's the man in the red. It's the monster in red. You can't speak his name because he might appear. No, you can't speak his name because he's crushing it. And your side is dissolving with every minute.
And
You've got nude people on bicycles protesting ICE, thinking that's going to slow down ICE, and that these ICE agents have never seen anything as gruesome. But wait a minute.
Well, you saw the other one, too, shining lasers.
Oh, yeah.
At the helicopters.
Yep.
and hitting some of the hospital helicopters.
Yeah, right.
And I was just telling you about the scene in Portland. I don't know where highway it's on. I didn't see the steel bridge, so I'm not sure what the highway they were on. Couldn't tell. Couldn't get my bearings because I lived in Portland. But hundreds upon hundreds of laying in the street, all naked. And it's like, well, if you want to screw up traffic in your liberal city.
Yeah, by the way.
And police aren't going to arrest you for doing it.
Right. They're clearly not in Texas. You cannot lay down on asphalt nude in Texas, even in October. That's a fact. That ain't going to happen. Not for long, you can't.
Not even on a cloudy day.
Not even on a cloudy day.
On our website, RedEyeRadioShow.com. Show info with stations, podcasts, and more. Red Eye Radio.
And he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Thanks so much for being here this morning. So I did find the audio cut. It was Abby Phillips. I knew somebody had, over the weekend, had said something about Obama, who on his ex-posts never mentioned Trump at all when it came to the deal.
Right.
Just congratulated the parties involved, but left Trump out of it. Here's Abby Phillips.
Honestly, it's not unfair to say if President Obama is going to write a whole post about a peace deal, maybe he should acknowledge the president that brokered it.
I mean, because there's no way around it. It is painfully obvious, and as much as the left hates to admit the truth, especially when it favors Donald Trump, there's really nothing else you can do, especially as a former president, one of many who couldn't get peace in the Middle East. Again, we don't know long term what will be accomplished here, but again, I have confidence in this plan. There are many moving parts in this plan. There are plenty of contingencies. It requires plenty of cooperation. But what has changed is we've seen, again, the cooperation of the other Arab nations who all want this long term, clearly, to play out.
You were just I was trying to find that audio cut, but I was paying attention in my one ear as you were reading. I believe it's the Wall Street Journal article. Right?
No, the Washington Post.
Oh,
actually.
Washington Post article about Qatar.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing that caught my eye from the weekend. This story from the Washington Post, and they say it's an exclusive. Arab states expanded cooperation with Israel military during the Gaza war, according to files. Israeli and Arab military officials have come together for meetings and trainings facilitated by U.S. Central Command on regional threats, Iran, and underground tunnels. Even as key Arab states, this is written by David Kenner, the Washington Post, even as key Arab states condemned the war in the Gaza Strip, they quietly expanded security cooperation with the Israeli military, leaked U.S. documents reveal. The military ties were thrown into crisis after Israel's September airstrike in Qatar. You remember how President Trump clearly wasn't happy with that. And there was something strange that I felt about that happening. And also President Trump's response. And I thought, wait a minute, why is he going out of his way for Qatar? You know, I mean, I know the base there and everything else, but I mean, what is it? He seems really, really, really upset at this situation, at his anger toward Israel in that, and then very, very apologetic for Qatar. And why is that? Well, if this is accurate and true here from the Washington Post, we could see why. And all of this, of course, the military ties could now play a key role in overseeing the ceasefire in Gaza. Over the past 3 years, facilitated by the United States, senior military officials from Israel and 6 Arab countries came together for planning meetings in Bahrain, Egypt, Jordan, and Qatar. Israel and Hamas agreed on Wednesday, of course, to this is a story from Friday, on Wednesday to the first phase of a peace framework that would result in the release of all hostages. I'm seeing from the Times of Israel right now that so far 7 Israeli hostages have been released, and the next group will be released at 10 a.m. local time, which is in about an hour and 20 minutes. So you look at this situation, and I won't go through the entire story here at the Washington Post, but it says even before the big announcement, the Arab countries involved in this security collaboration had signaled their support for President Donald Trump's 20-point plan to end the Gaza war. The plan calls for Arab states to participate in the deployment of an international force to Gaza that would train a new Palestinian police force in the region. You couple this story here with another story that came out over the weekend, and that is that Qatar is building an Air Force training facility at a U.S. military base.
In Idaho, right?
In Idaho. And it overall demonstrates President Trump's approach to peace. Look, everybody, we're going to, peace through strength, but also you cooperate, and this is going to go very well for you. You're not gaining anything by doing what Iran is doing, supporting this as their proxies, Iran's proxies, like Hamas, go out and have people living under their power in Gaza, but also are attacking Israel, and as they did on October 7th, over 2 years ago now. You're not gaining anything as an Arab nation from this. You're only putting yourself and your people at greater risk when you could change all of that, change your economy for the better, and have an agreement, a handshake at the very least. We don't need to be, best buddies with Qatar.
But I wonder if that's where it's headed. Because I wonder if, with the Abraham Accords, for example, you had the first round.
Right.
Israel, United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, Sudan, Morocco. You hear that Saudi Arabia, Syria, Indonesia, other countries that, the potential expansion. Also, you've heard about Qatar. Is this because when I first saw the other day, I went, wow. But all of a sudden, when the Washington Post had the article that said, no, Qatar's been cooperating here since October 7th with Israel. It's mean they've been cooperating with the United States. It seems so quick to us, but behind the scenes, has it been that quick? Or has this been something that has been growing over the last couple of years? I was reading the Newsweek article that said Trump loses the MAGA base by having Hegseth announce that there's going to be the Qatari training facility in Idaho for F-15s.
Right.
And I remember, what it reminds me of? Remember Iran? We had that with Iran. And then when everything hit the fan back in '79,
I was standing at the front gate.
Yeah, all the pilots had to go back. And
I stood at the front gate at Laughlin Air Force Base, where my father was chief of police at the time. And I was in SP Explorers, security police explorers, for young people who, just wanted to kind of, basically it was a great little handshake for those, especially those of us that lived on base. And they were bussing out those Iranian pilots. And I forget how many buses it was, because, I was 12, 13. But I do remember it seemed like a lot. I thought, wow, that's a lot of people. And that was a huge training facility, Laughlin Air Force Base, which is just, 8 or 9 miles from Del Rio. And it's the first thing I thought of. It's funny you say that. When I saw that story over the weekend, I thought, okay, is this new age where there's this cooperation? Because if you think about that, then Qatar, if they have the proper training, if all these Arab nations have the proper training, but they also have this handshake deal, we're still the most powerful. We're still the big dog. We're still the ones who control everything, but they have more power and more control and leverage in their region from any would-be enemy otherwise. And that's something that they want. And I can hear a lot of people going, well, that means they get a stronger position against the U.S. if they ever wanted to go to war with the U.S. They don't want to go to war with the U.S. They know better.
Well, but you asked me, I was seeing it's like the base. I'm like, I didn't see the base. I said, I didn't see the base. I saw people going, all right, what's going on here with the Qatari thing? Why did they announce? There didn't seem to be any warm up to that, or any lead in to that. When the Washington Post article came out, it said, okay, well, if they've been dealing with Israel for years, is this part? And knowing Trump, if you get something, he wants something.
Yeah.
What have we gotten on the other side? Is Qatar now going to remember? We've got a CENTCOM base there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's the control headquarters for CENTCOM in the Middle East is in Qatar. So, have they made the decision? Look, we can't serve two masters.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question.
And so again, I don't know on it, but what did Trump get for it? Is there going to be? Look, if Qatar has agreed, that story gets out, and it's true, then the Islamic radicals understand that. Do they view this now, and take it in its totality, Eric? The U.S. support to destroy the Iranian nuclear facilities. Mm-hmm. Did that change everything?
I think that was the 1-2 punch. I was the number. That was the second punch from maybe not so much of a punch. The visit to the Middle East before that by Donald Trump, by President Trump. I think there were so many things laid down during that visit, and it was key that he did not. It's key to remember too when talking about it. He did not visit Israel during that trip. And because if he had, then it comes off as this, oh, he's trying to play both sides thing. No, I think it was a clear meeting with those Arab nations. Here's what we got for you. Here's what your future looks like. Think this out. And then, boom, he hits Iran. Any questions? Any questions? We will not let you get that kind of power in the world. That's not going to happen. We're not going to let you be that kind of threat. We're not going to let you, through your proxies, rule over otherwise peaceful people and attack Israel. Israel's not going anywhere.
So is it when you talk about these countries over there and the fact that they aren't complete democracies, but you look at before Trump went and with Israel, and look, it's getting the approval from the United States that caused it all.
Yeah,
we all know it,
right?
That they said, all right, the United States is there. They took out. There is no nuclear threat from Iran. They're no longer. We don't need to worry about Iran any longer. Let's now align with the West. Well, we already have the CENTCOM base here. They're never going to be friendly towards us completely.
Right.
There's always going to be doubts because of our cooperation with the United States. Is it time to go full United States-Israel? Because you think about it, if that story is true in the Washington Post, and this has been going on since October 7th, that's a huge change. The talk about Abraham Accords, you get Israel, United Arab Emirates, that's aboard already. Bahrain, Sudan, Morocco, Saudi Arabia, Syria, Indonesia, Qatar, and they're all part of the Abraham Accords. Now, Morocco, Sudan, Bahrain, United Arab Emirates, and Israel are involved in Abraham Accords. But if you get Saudi Arabia, Syria, Indonesia, Sudan, more countries over there part of it, Turkey, what if they all do it and you form that group over there, which has all now accords with Israel and therefore the United States.
Yeah. Well,
that's a huge, and again, my age comes in here. You look at it, it's mind-boggling to even think. Even the Abraham Accords that happened between the UAE, Bahrain, Sudan, and Morocco was huge.
Yeah. Oh, massive. Yeah.
You go further on this, it's like the Berlin Wall coming down.
It is. It truly is.
866-90 Red Eye.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
We are Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. where we stand right now. 7 living Israeli hostages have been released. So 7, the reports are 20 are alive.
Yeah.
7 more, coming up in the next hour?
Right. Amit Siegel, also, who is a reporter there in Israel, is posting that the 7 hostages were all standing up. This is the first group that was released at 8 a.m. local time, the next to be released at 10 a.m. local time, the next group. And certainly we will be following this. But the president also is watching this from Air Force One. So he's watching this play out live as well on Air Force One and his travels to that region.
Top of the Hour News is brought to you by House Products. Visit houseproducts.com.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Latest breaking news, the first 7 living hostages have been handed over to the Red Cross in Gaza. They say they're on their way to the Israeli border. The Israeli government confirmed the hostages were in Red Cross trucks headed to the Israeli border, where they will be handed over to the Israeli Defense Forces. According to a video released by Arab media, the hostages appeared all to be walking as they were handed over, a good sign of their health following 787 days in captivity. Just so people know, originally there was a group of 250 that were kidnapped.
Right.
They believe there's 48 total, 20 living, and the rest there are remains.
Mm-hmm.
I did read a list of all of them, and I believe they're all Israelis.
Yes.
Of the
I
20
believe so.
that they
Yes.
believe are
Right.
are alive right now.
Right.
Somebody wrote me and said, "What about the Americans?" I go, "I don't believe there's any Americans they believe that are still alive."
Right.
Whatever I don't have that total, what that amount was here at the moment. But yeah, originally it was 250 that were kidnapped.
Right. Right. Yeah.
And crowds gather at Tel Aviv's Hostages Square, eagerly awaiting the remaining detainees' release. The Hostages and Missing Families Forum encouraged the public to gather at the square to witness the hostages return. The Times of Israel reported President Trump is on his way over there to Israel, and just going through the latest here. Sorry, but we're just in the middle of scanning. Let me just get the latest here. Oh, hang on here. I'm having problems with my.
The Palestinian prisoners that are set for release have been placed on buses, and Gazans have gathered to witness their return. We don't know the timeline of that. We do know that it is the second, but also now being reported from the Times of Israel, remaining 13 living hostages. They said earlier it was reported second group, and we didn't know if that would mean several or the rest of the living hostages, but they're saying, reporting now again from the Times of Israel, the remaining 13 living hostages will be released at 10 a.m. local time, and families have gathered near the Gaza border. As you mentioned, Gary, the president is on his way. He will visit Israel and Egypt. He is on Air Force One right now. They posted just a little while ago on the White House X page a picture of a TV screen, and they're telling us that TV screen is he's not in the photo, but they're telling us the president is watching this aboard Air Force One.
So that means about 50 minutes from now,
Yes.
all the remaining living hostages will be. Well, I guess you're not a hostage if you're. They keep saying living hostages. I don't know if that's redundant because are you a hostage if you're not alive? But so that's the schedule, right? That would be another 50 minutes from now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
right.
As we said, the president's headed to Israel, where he's expected to meet with Netanyahu and then address the country's parliament. He will also meet some of the families of the hostages. He will then head to Egypt, where leaders from more than 20 countries will join a summit on Gaza's future. The imagery of that is just unbelievable.
Yeah,
when you
really
think when you think about the imagery of that happening, and I guess that would I don't know if that's going to happen today or tomorrow. I would expect that he would spend the day in Israel, and then that would be Tuesday. I don't have that in front of me here is exactly where that is, but you and I were talking earlier about the role of Qatar, Qatar, whatever, and the Qatari, I won't call it a Qatari air base, but a
training facility.
A training facility for the Qataris.
It will remain, to be clear, U.S. real estate. It's in Idaho, and it will be our jurisdiction.
It's like a Iran had, but I mean, it was being promoted that way, and it was immediately I saw it was Newsweek that I saw over the weekend said mega base living. I went where, and it was like Laura Loomer.
Okay.
Okay. Well,
all right.
That's not exactly the base of Trump.
No. When you look at the comprehensive nature of this 20-point plan, it goes beyond the hostage release. Obviously, that was priority one. But it goes far beyond that because it has to. What are you truly trying to achieve? You and I, and many of our listeners, are old enough to know peace in the Middle East almost became a weird catchphrase from a sitcom because we've heard it for so long. It just almost lost its meaning. And if this ends up, this comprehensive plan, accomplishing all of this in this way, and it's, again, accurate and true what the Washington Post reported on, this would have been over the weekend. If it is, I guess it would have been Saturday, October 11th, so it was Saturday, this report that came out based on leaked documents from the U.S. government that Arab states expanded cooperation with Israel, the Israeli military, during the Gaza war. And so you look at what the great incentive is. The incentive is not just peace, but also being able to have, a say-so, a place at the table, but, whatever it is they're trying to accomplish. But something that I know appeals to them in particular from this particular president, and that is a greater economy. It's not going to be total free market principles, but better than what you have now.
Right. And let me, the Newsweek article also, let me just write it here. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth announced on Friday the United States has greenlit an establishment of a Qatari Air Force facility in Idaho, a move that's drawn backlash from some of the administration's closest Make America Great allies, with Laura Loomer writing on X, "I've never felt more betrayed by the GOP." Steve Bannon, former White House chief strategist during President Donald Trump's first term and architect of the MAGA movement, told Newsweek in a text message there should never be a military base of a foreign power on the sacred soil of America. Newsweek has reached out to Qatar's government communication office for comment via email on Friday. When I first saw the story, that's how it was stated. And the fact is, the administration announced that the agreement states an Idaho Air Force Base will host a contingent of Qatari F-15s and their pilots.
The base will remain under U.S. jurisdiction.
Right. I mean, but I knew that all the time.
I grew up on again.
Right.
I lived on a base.
This isn't new.
I lived on a NATO training base where my dad was chief of police, and it was explained to me at a young age, and it's the first thing that related to me because I realized, oh, we've done this before. You know, Qatar wasn't part of it, but Iran was. And again, when you go back to, you go back decades and you look at a situation like this, I have great confidence in this plan because of the comprehensive nature, but also the stories that we're seeing about how the other Arab nations are cooperating to all have a piece in this, to all play a role in this. I shouldn't say all, but many of them play a role in this. They all certainly have a common interest. Iran may not share that interest, and maybe a couple others may not share that interest, but certainly the one thing you don't want is to go to war with the U.S. I think after the president's first term and setting the tone there and taking out Soleimani and all of that, I think that was part likely because you saw the one story in the Post, aside, which is a different story than the hosting the Qatari pilots, is, again, Arab nations have been cooperating with the Israeli military, and this goes back before January 20th of this year. So what does that tell you? Well, I think part of that was how this president, who was during that time, during Biden's time, clearly going to run again, had a good chance of winning again, but there was no doubt in their mind, the leaders of these Arab nations, that somebody who thought like a Donald Trump and who was going to be strong was going to come back into power in the U.S. But beyond that, it's just a very simple equation. There are two roads. The road that contains a nonstop war and a road that contains peace and prosperity. And it really is that simple. And you have to make those decisions. You can wag your finger. You can issue a concern. I mean, hell, they all have social media pages. They can still put out whatever propaganda, but at the end of it, cooperation is the key. And that's what the Washington Post story, again, if it's accurate and true, these leaks from U.S. officials, documents that came from the U.S., if it's true that these other Arab nations were cooperating with the Israeli military, that's huge.
It is huge. And again, but I just want to get back to how the story was perverted when it first came out. It's going to be what is it going to be? It's going to be a Mountain Home Air Force Base.
Right.
Yeah, it was portrayed as if we were giving them their own Air Force base on American soil.
Right.
And that's when Laura Loomer came. And by the way, Laura Loomer is not your average Trump supporter.
Right.
Let's make that clear.
Right.
They try to, that the MAGA base is revolting. No, they're not.
No.
And the Mountain Home Air Force Base, about 40 miles southeast of Boise.
Right.
And so they'll be training what they now view as, remember, we've got what the Middle Eastern CENTCOM base is in their country.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And, we have huge facilities there. So, when I saw that on Friday, I went, they're not building an Air Force base for Qatar. If they are,
no.
I mean, then if you're building an Air
Force
base. No,
but you're right. It was, when it first presented, it sounded like,
yeah.
And I don't know what the media had wrong or some of the media had wrong, but I thought to myself, well, no, that doesn't sound right. I can't see them giving up, again, jurisdiction, because that's what it sounded like. Well, no, this would be their base.
No. Yeah,
and the
exactly.
US would have no jurisdiction whatsoever over it. No. Trump was not going to do that. Now, if you
Idaho was not going to do that.
Exactly. Red Dawn.
Red Dawn.
But if that's a great point. If you but if you look at that and you can say, well, we shouldn't be doing anything for Qatar, again, you have to step back and look at this entire equation. You have to, and I get, based on history, the concern. But again, here are the two roads: peace and prosperity. The other road is an endless war that contains terrorism and terrorist activities that are funded by these nations who want to take that road.
86690 Red Eye.
This morning's USDA Farm Report is brought to you by House Products. Tested, trusted, guaranteed since 1920.
A look at this year's forecasted U.S. apple production indicates more apples expected to be harvested.
The apple crop is forecast at 11.5 billion pounds, according to the August USDA Mass Crop Production Report. The 2025 apple crop marks the third season in the last decade that annual production exceeded 11 billion pounds based on 7 NASS surveyed states.
And USDA research economist Catherine Weber says if those forecasts hold up, apple production will be up 6% year over year, but similar to production numbers from 2023.
In Washington, the largest apple producing state, the crop is forecast to be 8 billion pounds, 7% higher or 520 million pounds more than last year. If realized, the 2025 apple crop would be the largest in Washington history.
By variety, Gala and Delicious remain the tops in annual production, but this season sees Honeycrisp production moving into third place among apple varieties produced by volume. I'm Ron Bain reporting for the U.S. Department of Agriculture in Washington, D.C.
This report brought to you by Cenex Fuels and Lubes.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90 Red Eye.
We are Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning, and thanks so much for being here. Just want to play this quick audio cut from CNN, who, of course, is there looking at the crowds in Tel Aviv.
Yeah.
As we know, 7 hostages have been released, living hostages. 13 more, probably in the next half hour or so, are supposed to be released. Here's the latest from CNN.
There was this banner that was displayed on the beach in Tel Aviv, a giant thank you, just to kind of speak to the moment, Sarah, of what kind of Israel is bracing for right now, as the president's expected to be here. He's only going to be here for less than 5 hours on the ground in Jerusalem, but he'll be speaking to the members of the parliament. He'll be meeting families of hostages and hostages themselves, and partaking in that, as we see him also standing alongside the Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu. There was this.
Well, that answers one of my questions. I said, how long is he going to be there? 5 hours. So he may be heading out to have that meeting later on today.
Right.
I saw the Democrats still trying to make the case that Trump has cognitive problems, and especially. Well, he got the clean bill of health last week, but they were still. Why is he getting it? He just had one. Why is he getting another one? They're so desperate.
Yeah, they really are. But here's a guy who's crushing it, and doesn't seem to be slowing down at all. At all. I mean, if you think about it, we're not even 9 months in to his second term.
What do we say? There's about, now, because it was a couple weeks ago, about 80% of the Trump presidency is still left.
Yeah. The border's secure, and hostages are coming home. And there could be, very well could be, lasting peace in the Middle East. 9 months. Yeah, you guys need to go review that whole auto pen thing. If you've got something to complain about, take that back to Biden.
And here's the president on Air Force One a couple of hours ago in a gaggle. You ready?
Right.
This goes back actually 6 hours ago. I'm just playing this because I laughed when I read the text. Here we go.
Yeah.
On China. Are you considering walking that back?
Who are you with?
Politico. Dasha Burns, sir.
Dasha Politico. Politico's gone bad. They've been so wrong about everything. Politico. Politico has been so wrong about everything. Let's get somebody else to ask some questions. Do you mind? Is that all right? Because Politico is fake news.
But he's not wrong. He's not wrong. Just stop calling on the fake news and liars. Who are you with? Politico. No. Let's get somebody else.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
And he's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. I want to play this audio cut from Fox News. Jennifer Griffin, after Hamas released the first 7 living hostages. Just so you know, we're expecting the other 13, there's a total of 20 to be released in about 25 minutes from now. And so a lot of anticipation right now in Israel over that. Here was the report from Jennifer Griffin.
We have just received the names of the 7 living hostages who have been handed over to the Red Cross. They are being checked medically by the Red Cross right now. Their identities are being confirmed, but I can read you the 7 names of the Israelis who were released just moments ago. Alon Ohel, Ziv Berman, and his brother Gali Berman, Eitan Moore, Omri Miran, Guy Gilboa Dalal, and Matan Angrest. You'll remember that Matan Angrest's mother addressed the very large hundreds of thousands of people who were in Hostages Square this last Saturday night. She gave an impassioned speech in which she spoke to her son and hoped that he could hear her voice in Gaza. Now, within the next few minutes, he should be transferred to the Israeli Defense Forces, who will then make their way to the border with Israel and then to Rain Base, where there are military aircraft, military helicopters waiting to take these hostages to area hospitals. 3 Tel Aviv hospitals are prepared to receive the hostages. We don't know what their medical condition is. As we've mentioned, some have been have lost a great deal of weight. They've been kept underground in tunnels. So we don't know their condition, but the medical professionals are waiting, and the Red Cross is examining them as we speak. But
now we do know that the Arab media said that they were walking.
They were standing upright, and so that was a good sign. That, again, the 7 living hostages that were released at 8 a.m. local time.
Hamas said it is committed to the ceasefire agreement, providing Israel sticks to its side of the deal. Hamas reiterated that it is releasing 20 living hostages as part of the first phase of implementing President Trump's plan to end the war in the Gaza Strip. Hamas stressed that international mediators should ensure that Israel abides by its commitments under the agreement and completes the implementation of all of its terms. The statement was issued shortly after Hamas's military wing handed over the first group of hostages to the Red Cross. As we said, 250 initial hostages taken. There were 48 that were unaccounted for, 20 living. That seems to be, nobody's disputing that, are they?
No.
That there were 20 living, and then there's 28 remains.
Right.
Of other hostages.
Right.
So, and I found that interesting that nobody is really, there's no debate as to the number. It's what Israel believed, and that's what will be released from what we're told, what's being communicated, by the Red Cross.
Yeah.
Right. So it'd be 7 were released already, and probably in about, 22 minutes from now, And it seemed to be everything was on time for the release of the first hostages, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. And, again, families were invited locally to witness this. And it is playing out, again, in the way that you want it to play out here as best as this situation could play out, or a situation like this could play out. And that is because when the deal was announced, again, many people, they hoped and prayed. I literally prayed that it was true, that it would happen, that these hostages would come home. As you're watching these families celebrate just the news of that last week, and keeping in mind what the history of Hamas is and how they have behaved in the past.
Well, look, there isn't any of us out there who haven't paid attention to the news, that haven't taken a cynical look at whether Hamas would fulfill all the promises. And there's no doubt, knowing Hamas, knowing Islamic radicalism, when we mentioned the story from the Wall Street Journal that was talking about the fact that some of the police in there, Hamas is trying to get itself into the police forces. We know that's going to happen. We know there's going to be it's obvious there's going to have to be a vetting process that both the what do they call it? I forgot the name of it, but the Palestinian government, the government, the technocratical, is that what they called it?
Right. Yeah. Technocratic. Yeah.
Technocratic.
Right.
Palestinian government,
right,
that is about getting services restored, that there's going to have to be a vetting process. However that vetting process is done, and maybe that's part of what's going to be going on today, after the president is done in Israel and then flies to meet 20 other countries. France, England also will be there. Their prime ministers will be there, or the president of France. So it substance-wise and image-wise, again, when it comes to the Middle East, we're just all naturally cynics, right?
Yeah.
This can't really be happening.
Right.
I look back to the closest thing that I may feel at the end of the day today is the same feeling I had when the Berlin Wall was coming down, which was really complete, disbelief. Now, that crumble happened, and, it was almost Soviet Union going, just, go.
Right.
Like it's done at that point.
Right.
And then soon after, Soviet Union was gone. But how quickly it happened still today boggles my mind. And Russia still has major problems. And basically you could say they're authoritarian dictatorship, which, how much better is it? Well, they're not as powerful as the old Soviet Union.
Right.
And you look at many of the former Eastern Bloc countries are doing very well.
Yeah.
Others are struggling, but others are doing very well. And so, but the process has begun, and it's a long process to move. It's a long process to move from any type of authoritarian state, to a full democracy.
Right.
It's not going to happen overnight in the Middle East, but are you moving in the right direction is the question. Am I still a cynic? Is there still a part of me saying this can't happen? Of course there is. You don't go through covering the news for over half a century and seeing what the Middle East is like and understanding Islamic radicalism and the terrorist groups supported by Iran, and not be a very, very healthy cynic that, okay, they're trying to pull one over on us. And that's why you and I have looked at the agreement and said, okay, as long as each part of it's being followed, and it is so far, you get yourself to a better point than you were yesterday.
Yeah. There's the old Russian saying that Reagan actually used and I think popularized and that is trust but verify.
Yeah.
For me, trust is a big word. I think that trust is built only through verification, which I know is the point of the entire phrase. But for me, the most important part of that is verification, of course.
Just breaking news, the first 7 hostages released from Gaza have arrived in Israel, according to the Israeli military. They will be given an initial medical screening at a field hospital where they will meet their closest family and loved ones for the first time in 2 years before being taken to hospitals for comprehensive checks. So 5 minutes ago from CNN, the free 7 released hostages have arrived in Israel. They were in the Red Cross trucks heading to the Israeli border. They are now in Israel.
Right. And keep in mind, too, again, you mentioned the statement from Hamas earlier about, they plan to keep their end of the bargain as long as Israel does. Israel said early on that it would take to get back and do a full retreat, essentially, back to the line. They said they could do that. They could accomplish that within 24 hours. So if you're thinking about, and I don't know if that will be the case, that's just the message that they sent last week.
I don't understand. What do you mean?
Well, that if you look at this entire situation, what happens after all of the hostages and remains are turned over? Then what does it look like? How soon is Israel going to be out completely? And Israel made the statement that a full retreat would take less than 24 hours, that it wouldn't take days or months. Because I saw some comment over the weekend, and it was, but Israel could just stay and stay and stay, and no one's going to be able to force them out. I don't know if you could consider that a promise with that statement last week that they could be out. I think
they could be out, but they won't be out for months. I mean, they're going to pull back, as we know. They're going to leave. They're going to protect the Egyptian border. They're going to pull out from about 10% of it, but they have no plan. What they're saying is we could. That's how quick, if Hamas abides by what the terms are.
That's my whole point.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. So it's, it isn't this occupation if all these contingencies are followed and completed. Right. Because that was the only pushback I saw over the weekend from the left, who's, insistent on pushing back. I mean, it's all they know.
Well, they didn't read the 20 steps then.
Well, I don't think they care.
Well, that's why we read the 20 steps last week. We got a lot of compliments from our listeners who said, thank you for going through it because we went step by step. When this happens, this happens. When this happens, this happens. Mm-hmm. It's not a generalized thing. It's specific things must happen for other things to kick off.
Well, and I also think it's part of, President Trump's trip there is a key element. Because I think there would be a lot of question, well, he's watching this from stateside, and no one would blame him for doing that. My understanding, and I could be wrong, he's not well liked by some countries. Iran. There are some in the U.S.
Where everybody loved Biden, right?
Exactly. It is a very risky trip, no doubt. Well, every trip he takes has some level of risk. But also in doing this and announcing it days ahead of time that he was planning on doing it, that he would like to do it, and they're trying to do it, and then eventually he makes the trip. But I think it's important that he's doing it because you look at it as, all right, hold on a second. He's overseeing this as kind of chairman of the board. That's kind of going to be his position of this. And this is not any kind of intimidation thing. It's to go there, to witness it, to shake everybody's hands, and then be done. Now, I don't think he'll be shaking any hands with Hamas, but the important players in terms of Israel and Egypt, I think it is critical that the president is there, and clearly he saw that.
And he is there.
He is there.
CNN announcing the president has arrived in Israel moments ago as the hostage release process is underway.
Right.
866-90 Red Eye.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
We are Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. The president has landed in Israel, meeting dignitaries right now on the tarmac of Ben Gurion Airport. Also, as we have reported, and this happened a couple of hours ago, 7 of the initial 20 living hostages have been released. The remaining 13 should be here in the next 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So it seemed that if the time schedule for the first 7 was on time,
right? Yep.
Which would have been midnight our time, Central Time, and so we're coming up on 2 a.m. So they should be released any moment now. And I haven't seen anything yet from any media outlet that anything is expected to be delayed in any way on this.
No, but Air Force One on the tarmac now in Israel. Benjamin Netanyahu is also on that tarmac with a long red carpet going to the stairway of Air Force One. And so we're looking at Benjamin Netanyahu basically waiting for President Trump to exit Air Force One, which has been on the ground for some minutes as they set up, again, this arrival, this meeting that's going to happen. Fairly quick trip, but important trip by President Trump in the Middle East as hostages are being released from Gaza.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
And we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Our breaking news here this morning, 7 of the 20 living hostages have been released, awaiting here. The time for the other 13 was about 6 minutes ago. No update on that yet, but a lot of the news media paying attention to the fact that the President Trump landed in Israel here within the last 25 minutes. Here's some audio here. This is audio from actually inside Air Force One as they are passing that large sign on the beach that is welcoming President Trump. Here it is.
Text on board Air Force One. If you look off the right side, you will see the welcome President Trump sign.
So there you go. And I'm looking at the video here. Man, they've got some nice beaches there in Tel Aviv.
Yeah.
I'm looking at them right there going, wow, those are really nice.
Right.
And this is Benjamin Netanyahu. Welcome into Israeli airspace from the airport control tower.
Air Force One, this is Ben Gurion Tower. Welcome to the State of Israel, Mr. President. Your visit carries deep meaning for our people in these times. Thank you for our friendship and the unbreakable bond between our nations. God bless America, God bless Israel, and the friendship between our peoples.
There you go. And finally, I mean, this is what you really love seeing. This is one of the hostages' family, Matan Angris's family, singing when hearing he's one of the first hostages to be released.
Yeah.
The president expected to be in Israel about 5 hours. I'm sure some type of statement he'll be making. They're still on the tarmac.
Right.
I'm seeing him in the vehicle right now.
Yeah.
There isn't a procession or a number of vehicles moving as of yet, so they're still on the tarmac, and then we'll be headed out to meet with 20 other nations concerning the Gaza deal. So this could be an absolutely monumental day in world history.
Yeah.
If they can keep this going, because this is just part one of it. Still waiting. You see anything yet? Any breaking news on the rest of the hostages being released?
Don't see any breaking news as of right now. Again, President Trump has met with Netanyahu and other officials there on the tarmac, and as you mentioned, is in the car right now and sitting in the beast, as they call it. And I believe Netanyahu is in the vehicle with him, and they're waiting to depart that area there off of the tarmac. Heavily fortified, as you can imagine. And we are waiting, as you mentioned, Gary. It was scheduled to be 9 minutes ago that the remaining 13 living Israeli hostages would be released. Now the presidential motorcade there at the airport is on the move. So it is now moving from that area. They are now on the move. And as we wait to see where, again, any news that the remaining 13 have been released. They were scheduled to be released, and that process might be happening as we speak, but they were scheduled to be released 9 minutes ago. That was the schedule. The first 7 living hostages of the 20 were scheduled or released as scheduled. That happened a couple of hours ago at 8 a.m. local time. It's being reported by the Times of Israel that the Red Cross is en route to collect several more hostages. I don't know if that's just moments ago, but if that's what, again, we're waiting on. But it's being reported widely that the 13 remaining living hostages would be released again at 10 a.m. local time.
From the IDF, the Red Cross this from the Israel Defense Forces.
Mm-hmm.
The Red Cross is en route to the second location in southern Gaza for the release of the 13 remaining living hostages right now. This from CNN about the president landing. Trump emerged from the door of Air Force One on Monday morning to a trumpet fanfare before descending the steps and shaking hands with officials awaiting him on the red carpet. He greeted Prime Minister Netanyahu warmly with a half hug and a smile. The two men have a complicated relationship that's endured a number of ups and downs over the past several months. I think it's pretty solid.
Yeah.
He's a wartime president. He did a very good job. I had some disputes with him. They were quickly settled, Trump acknowledged on Air Force One last night. The two men spoke for a few moments before moving onward to other officials, including U.S. Ambassador to Israel Mike Huckabee and Israel's envoy. Trump was greeted with his special envoy Steve Witkoff and son-in-law Jared Kushner, who helped broker the ceasefire agreement last week. I think Ivanka was also there,
mm-hmm.
and so they weren't going to be part of this administration, except probably maybe one of the biggest foreign policy events
in American history. Yeah, which
in modern history.
Honestly, yes, exactly. if you can use them anywhere, that would be where you use them, right? I have said for quite some time. All right. By the way, the presidential motorcade is on the way there. Again, heavily fortified. President Trump in the presidential limousine. Then they're in Israel. It is now leaving toward the exit of the airport and moving a number of cars, kind of hard to count here, of vehicles that are in front of and behind the president's limousine. And you see that Netanyahu is in the vehicle in the president's vehicle, along with President Trump. And we are awaiting news on, and we're being told that the Red Cross is en route to collect several more hostages, again, after reports that the remaining 13, this would be the last of the 20 living Israeli hostages, would be released at 10 a.m. local time. That was about 13 minutes ago. And so we believe that process, or it's being reported that process is underway. As you mentioned, a second point in Gaza where the Red Cross is sending vehicles to retrieve those other hostages. And the freed hostages, the first 7, have arrived at a military base in Israel. They're being checked, and they are reuniting with their families. It is, of course, they're going to go through lots of physical and mental checkup at this military hospital, meet with family members. One family member of one of the hostages said that he looked pale and very skinny, but otherwise he looked okay. And as you can imagine, just a great deal of emotion here that has happened as they have been in this situation for over 2 years.
You know, I'm just thinking, what a nightmare, because you and I both watching the video of the I guess you call it just the number of cars, the armed armada,
motorcade,
motorcade armada.
Yeah.
I didn't know what
well, I think either applies here.
And I started thinking, what a logistical nightmare for the Secret Service.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Yep.
And I'm thinking to myself, my God. And it doesn't, you know, when you think about, you know, the 2 assassination attempts on Trump last year, and you're just like, okay, I hope the Secret Service is ready for this, because you think about the security that is needed. I mean, every single route that you're going on.
Right.
I mean, every single street that you go down. But it looks like it's a very well protected motorcade, does it not?
It's heavily fortified, and great trust in any Secret Service that is there, but also the Israeli military. They are very capable of security in a case like this, and so that gives you great confidence when the president is over there in a situation like this, which actually is unprecedented. It just simply has not happened in American history, really, that you can point to, and that's where I think, again, as this plays out and we learn more, a couple of different stories from the Washington Post over the weekend, but really one that stuck out to me. There was the one about the fact that in Boise, the U.S. Air Force will actually host Qatari pilots to train on F-15 fighters at the Mountain Home Air Force Base there in Idaho. But another story that stuck out over the weekend from the Washington Post, that Arab states expanded cooperation with the Israeli military during the Gaza war. This comes from files that the Washington Post claims were leaked by the U.S. government. And if it is accurate and true, it points to something that really seems to be logical, that as we see these other Arab nations that have cooperated in this to be a part, to play some kind of role in this 20-point plan. I think you were one of the first that I heard to point out how critical it was, Gary, to talk about, because there were concerns about, all right, wait a minute, 2,000 of theirs for 20 living Israeli hostages, but it goes beyond that because the contingencies that are built out is what's important here. That's what really, if you're, the goal is, what is the mission? The mission is peace. The mission is to reset here and build a long-term peace plan in Gaza.
And every turn of the peace plan, as you and I have said, it really doesn't matter whether it's 2,000 Gazans. Again, there's a lot of prisoners they're not releasing, by the way. That was also announced. But you look at it and you say, okay, it doesn't equal out. Well, it really doesn't matter, because when you look at the 20-point plan, what the president has made clear, and it seems like everybody's in agreement on this, that this is a long-term peace process, for everything, for Israel to move back from the point where they are right now, that we talked a little bit about last hour, there has to be verifiable, and everybody has to be in agreement that Hamas is not in control. You know, I'll tell you the one story I was reading, we'll relate that to you coming up here, about the different militias fighting inside of Gaza. And it's like, oh, we're not fighting Israel now, we're fighting our own now.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that you have to do, but it seems as if every step, even the ones not agreed to yet, because right now we're just to the release of hostages. Well, when the living hostages aren't there, and Hamas doesn't abide by where Trump wants to go on this peace deal, which is you have to be gone. There may be little things around the side to negotiate, but the fact is the Hamas influence has to be gone. Don't know whether that's possible or not yet. Is there a little bit of cynicism in me that can be reached? Of course there is. But the fact is, as long as the president says, if you don't, Israel can, that's the difference maker here.
Yeah.
You're not appeasing the enemy. You're not doing what Obama and Biden did. You're not appeasing. You're saying, if you're giving them an out. If you want to leave, if you set down your arms, you can go.
Yeah.
Now, down the road, where will there be certain people that will be held responsible for war crimes? That hasn't been talked about, but I can see that happening down the road.
Yeah, sure.
But as of right now, every step, and you and I went through the 20 points last week, any step that Israel has to do where they are moved back can only be done if Trump himself, who's the head of the board, says, okay, Hamas is not a part of the government anymore. And it starts out as, again, a technocrat government that doesn't have any type of political or legislative power, but is simply in there to rebuild the infrastructure. And everything else will be monitored by the group of nations involved in it, overseen by the president and the former Prime Minister of Great Britain,
and
Tony Blair.
Tony Blair, yeah.
I keep wanting to say Tony Dorsett for some reason. I'm thinking of I said Tony Dorsett. What do you think? I've got Dallas Cowboys.
I'm sure he'd be happy to help in any way that he could.
For some strange reason, I saw his name in the news last week. So, but yeah. So we'll have more coming up. 866-90 Red Eye.
Brought to you by FPPF Fuel Power Max.
Owner-operators can save a hefty amount of money by participating in discount fuel networks. If you're leased and your fleet has a fuel optimizer program, use it. Such a program helps plan a trip based on fuel prices and locations in the carrier's fuel network. The larger the carrier, typically the larger the discounts that are possible. Fees for using such networks have become rare thanks to competition for drivers. Owner-operators are well advised, however, to pass up network fuel stops that are too costly, are too far off route, sell inferior fuel, or are dangerously or poorly maintained. For independent owner-operators, a bevy of fuel discount networks exists, from a variety of traditional fuel cards to the National Association of Small Trucking Companies network and the younger mudflap applications discounts at independent truck stops around the nation. Research the options and discounts available to find the right one for you. Owner-Operator Business 101 is provided by Overdrive's Partners in Business program. Go to overdriveonline.com to the Partners in Business section of the website for more details on this and many other topics.
Brought to you by Shell Rotella, with advanced synthetic technology is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-EYE on Red Eye Radio.
We are Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Breaking news all night tonight. I've just tuned in right now. 7 hostages released. Actually, when we started the show, and 13, we have not 13 supposed to be released. About 28 minutes ago.
Mm-hmm.
We know that the Red Cross is heading to the second meeting place. That story's about an hour old, so we're just not getting any type of update here at the moment. The president is in Israel right now. He did land about 45 minutes ago, met with Netanyahu, and then the motorcade went off, apparently where they're actually going to meet some of the hostages. The 7 hostages that were released earlier have arrived. The Red Cross trucks took them, and they did arrive in Israel.
Right, yeah. They're at as I mentioned earlier, at a military hospital there in Israel, being checked out, being reunited with their families. They will remain there for an undetermined amount of time as they are checked out and are given what they need physically and mentally, and also spend time with their families. Again, waiting for the remaining living Israeli hostages to be released. We do believe that process is underway. It's being reported widely that it is through the Red Cross, and we're following this story throughout the morning.
On our website, RedEyeRadioshow.com. Show info with stations, podcasts, and more. Red Eye Radio.
And he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Download our Red Eye Radio app today, and you can listen when and where you choose. Eric, I just want to play this. This was the IDF, the soldiers that were actually deep inside of Gaza since October 7th. This is after they moved back. They pulled back from their advanced positions to the ceasefire line. Here they are singing the Israeli national anthem. You know, the interesting thing is, as you watch it, it's just so much more impactful when you can see the video of all the soldiers.
Yeah.
There. And this was in Tel Aviv when the first 7 living hostages were released.
Yeah.
So what we're waiting for now, and I'm looking here, nothing updated yet. The 28 remains that are supposed to be returned, and 20 living hostages, and nobody is in disagreement as to the number of living hostages out there.
The Times of Israel is reporting that the Arabic language Al Arabi channel is broadcasting the second stage of the hostage release in southern Gaza, filming from a distance. I am watching that live stream as we speak. Clearly is at a distance. I can tell you that there are multiple vehicles in the shot. There are a couple of people standing there. The viewpoint seems to be from across the road, as you will see the other vehicles crossing in front of the shot in the foreground, but in the distance, You see a number of individuals and one van, a few SUVs. Again, it's reported that this is the hostage release site in southern Gaza, being the second site, and this would facilitate the next group of hostages being the remaining 13 living hostages to be handed over to the Red Cross. So it's, let's see here. IDF also published footage showing the moment some released hostages were crossing the border into Israel. That would be the first 7.
Right.
That and it's a pretty amazing video to watch as they cross this border. They are in green vans. Appears to be followed by, there's several green vans. There's military vehicles, what appears to be an ambulance, but several military vehicles also following these vans that contain the first 7 freed Israeli hostages here. These would be the 20 living Israeli hostages, and we're watching this play out. There are now in this one live shot, which is being reported being the exchange of the next group of hostages, which is being reported the 13 remaining living hostages. There is a group of individuals that are walking toward where the camera is. I don't know if these individuals, what relation they have to this exchange, if any. In the distance behind them, you see multiple white vans, you see white SUVs. But again, this is an Arab news station that is covering this in the Times of Israel. Actually, it had shown this live footage, this live video, streaming live right now. Al Arabi TV News. I'm watching it via YouTube so that I can tell if this stream ends, how long this is going to go on. But watching this, again, the camera from a distance here, which I guess would be expected. I don't know how much access the media would have or anyone with a camera would have. That's not not a party to the exchange itself. So it stands to reason that they would have to set up from a distance. And again, there's not much to be seen of this. We're seeing people move around in the distance. We are seeing, again, a van, a full-size van, several SUVs. I can't count how many vehicles beyond the full-size van that are back there, but that's the kind of scenario we're looking at, the situation we're looking at this place in southern Gaza, which is to be the second exchange of these live Israeli hostages, living Israeli hostages, and 13 have not been released so far. The remains of the other hostages will come later, but it was scheduled that this process would begin for the second group at 10 a.m. local time. That is 41 minutes ago. But we started seeing reports that the Red Cross was on their way to that rendezvous site in southern Gaza. And again, it's being broadcast here by at least one news site, and that story being carried also by the Times of Israel. We're going to be following this throughout the morning. As you can imagine, this massive, in terms of a global events, what could be the beginning of long-lasting peace here. Let's all hope and pray that it is. That the 20-point plan, as it's laid out, is followed and has the effect and accomplishes the goals of everybody involved.
While we await the news of the remaining hostages living hostages, the 13 of them being released, just showing how tough the situation is going to be. Dozens have been killed in Gaza during violent fighting on Sunday within hours of the release of the first 7 hostages, according to local reports. The clashes between local militias also came ahead of the televised address in which Netanyahu called the imminent hostage release at that time. We've had 7 released so far. The beginning of a new path. He says the campaign is not over. There are still great security challenges ahead of us. Locals said gunfire had sent families fleeing in panic. This time, people were not fleeing Israeli attacks. They were running from one of their own people, one witness told the BBC. According to reports via an Israeli outlet, the violence erupted when Hamas militants raided a neighborhood in Gaza City, home to a clan called the Dogmush. The report said Hazma Interior Ministry had accused a militia of attacking its forces, while members of that clan said Hamas had exploited the ceasefire to target them over alleged cooperation with Israel. Children are screaming and dying. They are burning our houses, a relative of the clan told the Israeli media. We are trapped. I don't know how they entered with all kinds of weapons. Where were they when the Jews were here? They arrested all the youths, lined them up against the walls, pointed weapons at their heads. There is a massacre here, another member said. In total, the Israeli outlet reported that 52 members of that clan were killed, while 12 Hamas militants were also killed. Hamas's television channel claimed that among those killed was a blogger who reportedly celebrated the October 7th attacks online. The terrorist-run station claimed the blogger was shot dead by armed gangs operating outside the law while covering the clashes. So that's part of the challenges that you're going to have. Any peacekeeping force, international peacekeeping force, is going to, run into here. And I did see that, you had GOP senators yesterday, stating that, you've got to have Hamas has got to be written out of the picture.
Yeah.
You just no choices.
Yeah.
They've got, Lindsey Graham was one of them discussing it on Fox News yesterday. He said you've got to stick to that.
Yes.
If you don't stick to that, you're not going to accomplish anything. I think in the 20-point plan, they address it. Now, whether the 20-point plan stays as is, and I have seen no indication over the weekend that the president doesn't plan on fulfilling that. Well, it's step by step. Israel doesn't move back unless unless the government, which again becomes more of as we said, an infrastructure government, is a plan from Trump to rebuild the infrastructure. If it's not that, if Hamas is still there, Israel doesn't move back, and Israel can go back in.
It's important to look at the entire situation of
just breaking news. Israel has released the 2,000 Palestinian detainees.
Okay.
I'm sorry that I had that 10 minutes ago, and I just forgot to.
All right. And so when you look at the 20-point plan, and typically I'm among many who are not a fan of a plan that has so many moving parts, but they're all contingencies. And each of those contingencies, if not met, and then we, again, as you point out, then the U.S. says, well, Israel can do what they need to do to take Hamas out. We can go this way, or we can go the other way. And with the other Arab nations who now are playing a role in this, that is critical to the success of this because, again, they all have their own interest at heart.
From CNN from 10 minutes ago, the Red Cross is in position in Gaza to facilitate the second transfer of the hostages from Hamas to the Israeli military, which would then transport them to Israel. And
we're watching this live on Al Arabi TV News. They're streaming it. I'm watching it via their news channel. And it is and the Times of Israel also posted this video embedded into their story of this, that this is the second location where the Red Cross in southern Gaza is to meet and retrieve the remaining hostages here. There's a lot of activity here, multiple vehicles, too many to count in this situation. The camera is from a distance, and as we watch this, we expect to see at some point some of these vehicles, as they're loaded up, start to move out, and we're going to be following this story throughout the morning hours.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
We are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Looking at that Arab media streaming video of apparently where the last of the Israeli living hostages are supposed to be released. And last I looked at it 30 seconds ago, no movement as of yet of those vehicles, no massive movement of those vehicles in any direction. We know that from the reports from the IDF and the Red Cross that the vehicles are there at the second site. 7 hostages released, in case you just tuned in right now. 7 hostages released earlier this morning, 7 living hostages, 13 more to be either are released or to be released. It was supposed to take place about 54 minutes ago. There doesn't seem to be any panic anywhere, does there?
There does not. What is this live streaming from Al Arabi TV News? They have panned back to see what's basically closer to where the camera is. The camera's at a distance from where there is a group of vehicles, but they panned back to show a crowd is gathered, and then someone who heavily armed, who appears to be a member of Hamas, is standing there just like he's standing guard, doesn't want any of them to go any further. He's just kind of standing there facing that crowd. But there is sizable crowd that has gathered, to witness this. They don't seem to be protesting anything. But this is being reported as the next rendezvous place for the Red Cross to pick up the remaining living Israeli hostages, and that process began almost an hour ago. We're following this live throughout the morning.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America, he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Breaking news coverage of the release of hostages, just to line it up for you. When we started the show a little over 3 hours ago, that's when the first 7 living hostages, were released. But an hour ago was the expected release of 13 more hostages. The process is in effect. I had said earlier that, I'd seen one headline say the release of the 2,000 Palestinians was taking place, and then you see it's in the process of taking place. So again, when you see the way that these words are being used, I don't know if there's a tie-in between the two or not. You and I both looking at the Arab news media picture of which apparently shows from a distance the vehicles lined up. We also saw a Reuters loop of 3 Red Cross vehicles that Reuters stated was at the point of pickup, and it looked like there were 3 Red Cross vehicles and then a bus behind it.
Right.
And in front of the 3 Red Cross vehicles, it looked like those were Red Cross workers.
Right.
In front of them with the Red Cross emblems. I couldn't tell. We couldn't zoom in on it, but that's what it looked like at that point. But as of the moment, we do not have any word that the actual release has happened and that the remaining 13 of the 20 living hostages are on their way back.
Right.
We do not have that yet, but there is an expectation that is going to happen and should happen, but we don't know precisely when. But again, I've seen no instances of any type of panic surrounding the situation. Have you?
No, no. Everything in all the reporting seems to be consistent, as it is taking time here. It seems to be on schedule. There doesn't seem to be, as far as we know, nothing's being reported that they're behind schedule when, again, the second set of hostages, the remaining 13 living hostages, it was reported they were scheduled to be released a little over an hour ago, 10 a.m. local in southern Gaza. But the process did begin. It was widely reported about that time that the process did begin, that Red Cross vehicles were on their way to that second point in southern Gaza.
From CNN just a couple minutes ago, the remaining 13 living hostages have been released by Hamas to the Red Cross, CNN source says. Again, the remaining 13 living hostages have been released by Hamas militants in Gaza to the Red Cross. Have you seen anything movement from the
I'm not
Arab media?
El Arabiya TV. I have not seen anything from the shot that they have, assuming they know that they have good information that this, is the place where it's happening, where that exchange is happening. I'm looking at Times of Israel, and here they have updated just moments ago the final, as CNN did. Final 13 living hostages said that to be handed over to the Red Cross. The first 7 said handed over to the Red Cross, not to be, but said handed over to the Red Cross. First 7 reunited with their families. Trump's on his way to Jerusalem with Netanyahu. So it appears all 20 living hostages have been handed over. That's what's being reported right now. Again, it's just after 11 a.m. local time, and that process, again, was, started playing out right about the time we went on the air, midnight central here in the States. And so, again, being widely reported now by the Times of Israel, by CNN, at the final 13 living hostages handed over to the Red Cross.
Yeah, and looking at Reuters had that loop of 3 Red Cross vehicles with the bus behind it with what looked like Red Cross workers in front of it. And I went back to the Reuters live feed, and they don't have that. They're showing Israelis celebrating.
It seems to be a loop of different areas that Reuters has covered during this event.
They just keep going back to different loops.
Which you kind of have to be careful. Is it a real live stream? Is there other content that's recent but not actually part of what's going on? Again, we don't see any movement here from this live stream from El Arabi. The reason we got to that live stream is that the Times of Israel embedded that into the story of it. They embedded that video, that live streaming video themselves, and so
you thought
jumping on
it looked like it looks like it had legitimacy once they do
well,
that.
if the Times of Israel is putting any credibility into it, nobody can confirm for sure, of course, but then it certainly is. Let's see here if we get a new update.
Just Times of Israel also, after 2 years, Hamas holds no more living hostages as the final 13 are handed off to the Red Cross.
This is now being widely reported that all of the living hostages, the Israeli hostages, are now in the hands of the Red Cross or in Israel. The first 7 we know arrived in Israel already. They are at a military hospital in Israel. There are pictures that the media has posted of some of these hostages, and we are likely to see today and the coming days not only pictures of them, but also videos of them as they reunite with families at this military hospital installation that they're going to be at. They're going to get all the help they need medically and mentally. And, of course, they're going to be visiting with family, reuniting with family. I can't imagine the overwhelming emotions here that go with this kind of reunion. But it is now reported that all 20 living Israeli hostages have been handed over, and Hamas holds no more living hostages. Wow.
Just so you know, the Saudi TV channel reports that the bodies of the deceased hostages in Hamas captivity will be transferred to the Red Cross this afternoon.
Okay.
The report does not indicate how many bodies will be transferred. At least 26 of the hostages are confirmed dead by Israel, and Hamas has said it could face difficulties locating some of their bodies. But the one thing here, because this is one thing that I wondered at the very beginning, I said, well, are they going to agree on because everything with Hamas you can't believe, and that was the question that we had early on. Well, they're going to agree to how many living hostages there are,
right?
And they did.
Yeah,
when J.D. Vance was on the Sunday morning news show saying no, there's 20. Well, then that was never disputed really by anyone. Going up to the transfer today. So, what happens is now the Red Cross trucks will take them to the Israel border.
Yeah.
That's what's happening now with the 13 ones. It looked like before it took less than an hour to get there, so I don't know what the roads are like. Don't know what the path of the roads are in southern Gaza to take them to the Israeli border, but it is happening right now.
Yeah, and the Times of Israel also reporting again, as you just said, that the transfer of the deceased hostages' bodies is scheduled for this afternoon. And they cite, in fact, the Saudi news group that you cited as well in their reporting. And so we will, again, follow that, throughout the day. But this is an incredible moment for the people of Israel, but quite possibly may be looked back on as an incredible moment in world history. I have faith that it is. I have faith that this comprehensive 20-point plan is, at the very least, the best plan that could be offered because of what it requires, not just from Israel and Hamas, but what it requires from other nations, Arab nations, who will now have a role in the implementation, which, again, is guaranteeing the contingencies and all of those 20 points. And if that is the case, then it is different than any other peace in the Middle East plan that we've ever seen. You know, we kept hearing two-state solution, two-state solution, two-state solution. And while technically the 20-point plan long-term down the road kind of points to a two-state solution, it does not include Hamas. And obviously could never include Hamas.
The president has arrived at the parliament. When he will speak, we're not sure of as of yet, but he has arrived. He has arrived there, and all the living hostages have been released. 7 earlier this morning. In fact, right when we got on the air, and the 13, that was 7 initially, and the 13 remaining hostages being released here in the last, or transferred to the Red Cross, which is being released. I don't say fully released until they're at the Israeli border, though. But they're headed towards the Israeli border now.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Unbelievable news. Who thought we would be here by now? Who thought that there would be, we would get even this far, and that would be at least an outline of a 20-point deal that the president has made it clear Hamas cannot be a part of a new Gaza.
Right.
And as you said there, when you talked about the two-state solution, it was a two-state solution without Gaza.
Exactly.
And, you know, and you see you and I've talked about the
without Hamas.
What'd I say?
Yeah, without Gaza.
Oh, without Hamas. Yeah. You and I had talked about that, you know, many times before, about the polling of the Palestinians.
Yeah.
How in favor of Hamas there was. That's another challenge to be faced.
Yeah. You know, I mean,
what do you do at that particular point? How long do you stay in? You're never going to. The problem is, but this wasn't the goal. The goal was not to rid Gaza of the radical, Islamic fundamentalism.
Right.
It was to get rid of Hamas, destroy Hamas, give them a chance to do it. The one thing that isn't in this 20-point plan is the timeline, because the timeline isn't based on a calendar. It's based on behavior.
Yeah. You know, that's the whole thing. Again, there are a lot of moving parts, which sometimes isn't great. It leaves open, a lot of possibility for things to go wrong. But there are moving parts and a lot of, again, different players that are part of this. And as they take ownership and play a role in, again, lasting peace, then that's where you see the potential.
Steve Witkoff, the special envoy, put out this statement. I wondered if I would ever see this day. It's deeply gratifying to know that so many families will finally have their loved ones home. Today, 20 families are spared the unbearable pain of not knowing if they will ever see their loved ones again. But even in this moment of relief and happiness, my heart aches for those whose loved ones will not return alive. Bringing their bodies home is a must, and the act of dignity and honors their memory forever. Yeah. I can't help but feel the presence of my son Andrew at this moment. I'm profoundly grateful for the spirit of President Trump. This day would not have been possible without him.
Yeah.
866-90 Red Eye.
This report is brought to you by Shell Rotella. With advanced synthetic technology, is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance. As the seasons change, so does truck maintenance. Cold weather can affect everything from your batteries and air brake system to tire inflation and fuel lines. Here's a maintenance tip to help make sure your rig is ready when winter comes knocking. Have your batteries tested by a certified technician. Dead batteries are one of the most common causes of winter breakdowns. Testing them now will indicate whether or not they can keep up with electrical demands of your truck this winter. When you have your batteries tested, check the alternator for sufficient amperage and voltage output as well. Find a professional technician near you to have your batteries and alternator tested today, so you'll be ready when the seasons change.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-EYE on Red Eye Radio.
We are Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. We're just we're standing by here. Just put up the volume for a second here, if you would. Over here, yeah, you can just hear them in the background. That's the Israeli Parliament, the Knesset, getting ready to hear from President Trump.
Yeah,
Trump arrived in Israel to Tel Aviv, and then headed to the Parliament. All the living hostages have been released. So, wow.
Hamas holds no more living hostages.
Yep. Final group handed over to the Red Cross. They are on their way to the Israeli border.
President Trump, in the Knesset guest book ahead of his address to Parliament, wrote, "A great and beautiful day. A new beginning." That's the quote there. We will hear again from President Trump as we do have that feed available to us, and he is expected any moment to address Israel's Knesset. As again, this is wow. I mean, I think I have to echo the sentiments from before. You certainly are celebrating with those families of the living hostages, but you're also praying for those families of those who did not come home. And you know that they grieve, but I know that, again, the ultimate goal is to ensure that this never happens to Israel, that this doesn't happen to anyone else, that this is lasting peace. And so I cannot imagine the emotion with the families right now. Again, the first 7 living hostages were taken to a military base there in Israel at a hospital, and they will remain there for a day or two at least, where they will get checked up and have a mental health evaluation as well, and reunite with family. We are to assume, in fact, the 13 remaining hostages who are now on their way will be at that same Israeli military hospital. But again, President Trump will address Israel's Knesset in a matter of moments, and we will have that live for you right here as the continuing coverage on Red Eye Radio.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
And we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. We're in extended breaking news coverage. The release of the hostages, and it has been complete. The release of all 20 remaining living hostages. Hamas no longer has any hostages. The remains of the other 26 or 28, that number being disputed a little bit, will be returned this afternoon. Hamas saying still they don't know if they, have all the remains of all the hostages that they have admitted are dead.
Yeah.
So we're sitting here right now, just waiting, looking at the inside the Israeli Parliament building, the Knesset, and waiting for President Trump to speak here. Don't know exactly what the timeline is on this, but just so you know, the first 7 hostages were released earlier this morning.
Yeah.
In fact, right when we started the show.
Mm-hmm.
And the remaining 13 hostages were released here in the last 40 minutes or so. So as for the first set of hostages, it took a little while to get to the Israeli border. The second set are headed to the Israeli border right now. You know, as I sit back and look at this, because this is a day, you know, and I even said it earlier, I didn't know what the schedule was, and I went, well, is he going to stay there the whole day? He's only staying in Israel 5 hours, then heading right to Egypt to sign the peace deal before 22 other nations that are there.
Right.
It is, there's not only substance here, but there's a tremendous amount of imagery backed by substance to start this whole thing off.
Yeah.
To start this, when I say whole thing off, I mean the entire peace deal.
In fact, British Prime Minister Keir Starmer issued a statement on X because he is in Egypt as a part of this international summit, as you mentioned, that will take place there. But issued a statement on X earlier, and today is the first crucial phase in ending the war in the Middle East. Now we must deliver lasting peace and a secure future for the whole region. The UK is providing additional humanitarian aid for civilians in Gaza, and we will lead efforts to accelerate its reconstruction. So again, you have not just Arab nations that are involved in implementing and being a part of playing a role in this 20-point plan that was laid out last week, but you have other U.S. allies, including Britain. And that is, you know, when you look at something like that, you say, well, why is that important? Because if they all have a role in it, if they all have a hand in it, and this is where I give credit to President Trump, everybody takes part in it. They all have ownership in it. They all have the same direct interest in its success. And that goes beyond, you know, what you and I have grown up around, and that is, you know, the Palestinians against Israel, or Hamas against Israel, Iran against Israel. It also is a reminder, or we should be reminded, of the international response after President Trump and the U.S. bombed Iran's nuclear facility.
We think alike, because that was just in my mind. I was just going to head there, and go ahead.
Well, it's important because you didn't know what to expect, and I thought, well, there's going to be finger wagging and everything else in the world that hates Trump, and instead it was, hey, this is on Iran. So now that you have that entire scenario, and then fold in President Trump's earlier trip to the Middle East, which did not include a trip or a visit with Israel at that point, for that trip was all about those other Arab nations coming together in a presentation, a proposal for them, then you're looking at, again, a well-thought-out plan. The 20-point plan, in my opinion, is the most comprehensive plan. I don't know of anything else, any other plan that has this kind of potential. Again, I use the word potential. I pray that it lasts. I pray that it works.
When you go back and when you mention, for example, Iran, we look at everything and say, how did this get to this point? Are we really to this point? Are we really to this point? And that's why, of course, on Friday, when, again, the news was distorted, Qatar's going to have their own Air Force base in Idaho. Mm-hmm. It's like, no, they're not.
No.
They're going to get flight training.
It's a U.S. Air Force base that is hosting their pilots.
Exactly. So, I mean, it was just... I said, well, I don't think, number one, that if Hegseth had told Qatar they could have their own Air Force Base in Idaho, I have a feeling Trump would have fired him.
I'm guessing.
But that wasn't the case. But we look at it overall, and you look at that and you went, okay, what's going on here?
Yeah.
And then you hear, and you, thanks so much because you were reading it was the Washington Post story, right?
Yes.
That talked about the fact that Qatar had been helping Israel since October 7th. And we just knew something was when they went in and they took out the Hamas leaders. And there wasn't really this incredible blowback in the Middle East. When there was an incredible blowback and I'm still amazed by it, that there wasn't this incredible blowback when the Israel and the United States went in. It was both of us went in and destroyed their nuclear sites.
Yep.
And not a peep. And I asked you, I think it was that night, I said, will anybody be talking about this? Because initially I don't see this incredible anger and reaction to it. And by a week later, nobody was talking about it. It wasn't even an issue anymore. And at that point, I was like, okay, something's up here. What exactly is up? Who knows? But the whole Qatar thing, now the possibility of more Abraham Accords. So think about it. If you got Saudi Arabia, Syria, Indonesia, and Qatar to have peace agreements with Israel, along with already, Bahrain, the United Arab Emirates that already have one. Who am I missing here? Morocco has one. I'm missing one country. I can't think of it here at the moment. But when you have all that going on, and you get all that peace agreement with the Israel,
yeah,
brokered by the United States,
yeah,
which means it's in essence a peace deal with the United States. If it's with Israel, it's with the United States.
That's pretty amazing.
I don't think if that happens, if they get to that point and they can go through this process of, and remember, it's not just the United States doing it. And Trump made clear that United States troops won't be on the ground in Gaza. You saw that.
Right.
They may be in different support agencies. My God, think about this. Think how far we've come from trying to build the off-ramp for deliveries.
Oh, my gosh. Oh, what a debacle.
What a debacle.
By the way,
that just popped into my... Go ahead.
Part of the breaking news this morning, just moments ago, from the Times of Israel, a Red Cross official tells the Times of Israel the group has 13 hostages released from Hamas's capacity in okay condition. In okay condition is the quote there. On our way to the IDF, the senior official says. So they are en route. But no, you're right. Look at the difference between. I think that is that juxtaposition of another debacle during the Biden years, and how it seemingly really didn't include any effort, any thoughtful effort or approach to lasting peace. And Donald Trump, as president, has brought it together. The story you're referring to from the Washington Post, and I'll just read this part. This happened Saturday. Even as key Arab states condemn the war in the Gaza Strip. Go ahead.
One moment of breaking news here. The second and final group of living hostages has been transferred from the Red Cross to the Israeli military.
Okay.
An Israeli source tells CNN the hostages will now be taken to a military base where they will reunite for the first time in over 2 years with loved ones before undergoing medical checks. But that was an important point. They're now in Israeli hands.
Yeah.
It's complete.
Yeah,
Go
it
ahead.
is. Well, and again, this is just a part of all of this, I believe, even as key Arab states condemned the war in Gaza, in the Gaza Strip, they quietly expanded security cooperation with the Israeli military, leaked U.S. documents revealed. And
who leaked those documents?
I guess.
Talking about leaking.
I have my guesses.
Who leaked those documents?
You know, Hegseth has been cracking down on the leaks. I heard.
I didn't hear any outrage over those leaks.
I probably won't. But you know, that's the military ties were thrown into crisis after Israel's September airstrike on Qatar, and we looked at that and we were saying, okay, that's really odd. What's going on there? But also there was something about the response by President Trump that he was so upset. It was like he seemingly is really, really upset about this whole thing. Well, it tells you how this thing was brokered and why it's important in terms of strategy to keep everything in play. And again, even as they condemned, these key Arab states condemned the war in the Gaza Strip, they quietly expanded security cooperation with Israeli military. I mean, again, you can wag your finger and say, well, you know, we're looking for peace. We're looking for peace. We don't support this. We don't support that. But there is a different tone. And now, after this morning, again, it is now reported that all 20 Israeli hostages, living hostages, are in the hands of the Israelis.
And that's from the IDF. So,
this is a massive first phase of this peace framework, and those contingencies built out, coupled with that story over the weekend about those Arab nations quietly cooperating with the security forces from Israel, and all of this cooperation is what is different. It's not just the U.S., Israel, and Hamas. It is truly a regional and even global effort here that has everybody playing a part in it and having their interest in that directly.
And I can see the meme later on today. Now, if the president can just get the cooperation of California, Illinois, and New York.
Yeah, or the Democrats. I mean, just the opposing party would be nice, but we'll see.
That meme will be out there. Yeah. 866-90-RED-EYE.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
We are Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Extended breaking news coverage of the release of the hostages. All 20 hostages have been released and are in Israeli hands. I do want to play this here as we await the president speaking before the Israeli parliament. But this one is Ram Brazlovsky's mother. He's one of the first hostages released. And the title is, You Don't Need to Understand Hebrew. Yeah. Here we go.
אני שרופה עליך, רוב. אני שרופה עליך, רוב. אני שרופה עליך, רוב. נשמה שלי, אני אוהבת אותך, רוב. תדבר, רוב, תגיד משהו.
Not really a lot of a back and forth conversation on the smartphone, talking to him on the smartphone.
Right. Yes.
And you can see he didn't get any words in the first couple of seconds.
Right. That's one point that we didn't talk about, but the hostages, as they're being released, were able to use smartphones so that they could FaceTime loved ones if available.
Right.
And some of them did that. And we'll continue our coverage throughout the morning.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.